Hey guys, Travis here. Thank you all so much for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't yet and hit that notification bell to keep in the loop. Enjoy today's podcast.
What if you're not very smart?
Right.
No, I don't mean a person.
So then you're basically saying that the stupid people need their myths. You know, we smart people on stage don't need them.
Right.
But
I actually am saying that to some degree. Look, if you're not exceptionally cognitively astute, you should be traditional and conservative. Because if you can't think well, you're going to think badly. And if you think badly, you're going to fall into trouble. And so it is definitely the case, and this has been what would you call a cliche of political belief for a long time. If you're not very smart, it's better to be conservative, because then you do what everyone else does. And generally speaking, doing what everyone else does is the path of least error moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean that rationality is unnecessary.
Nor does it mean that all conservatives are stupid.
It doesn't mean that either. Right, precisely. It doesn't mean
very
that either.
important caveat.
Yes,
but all conservative structures are not the same either, and that we have many warring and incompatible versions of being conservative.
True. And this is where rationality actually does play its role. Although I don't think it's best conceptualized as rationality precisely, it's definitely the case that to take Douglas's point, that we need to be bound by our traditions, but we need to be judicious in their re-representation and update, and we have to do both.
All right, welcome to the Pangburn podcast. Do stupid people need myths? You do not need to be exceptionally cognitively astute to sniff out the bullshit in myth. There can be myths that teach valuable lessons and provide pleasure, but most myths also contain a lot of nonsense. For example, every myth about God's intervention in human affairs. Jordan seems to be suggesting that because stupid people may think badly, that they should be traditionally conservative to avoid thinking badly. I would contest that in some cases thinking badly can lead inadvertently to great discoveries, and we should not fear being wrong. For instance, falling in love with another for bad reasons, but character changes occur throughout the relationship to form a healthy bond. I think we have all been guilty of thinking badly in our lives, but not all outcomes have gotten us into trouble. As a general rule, I think that we need to move towards thinking correctly. I call this having a solid foundation in skepticism and applying this to all propositions. Sam interjects with, but all conservative structure is not the same. This note is important if we are generalizing conservatism, as being conservative can sometimes be rationally difficult to accept. But I don't see Jordan generalizing conservatism per se, so Sam's point may be a non sequitur, depending on what he was getting at. Jordan agrees with him on his statement, as we later find out. So why did Sam feel that this was important to address as a follow-up? There seems to be more meat here. Jordan claims that doing what everyone else does generally leads you down the path to the least amount of error moving forward. We only need to look at how groupthink plays out in society to contest this claim. The radical left, for example, follows one another seemingly blindly on supposed facts that don't have any basis in reality. For instance, attempting to silence those they disagree with because they think it's hate speech. When you ask them what their evidence is, they will claim that they are taking offense to what is being said, which really doesn't mean anything. A solid foundation in skepticism in this instance will leave you outside this groupthink on the correct side of free speech. Jordan then goes on to claim that we must be bound in our traditions and judicious in their representation and update. No! Some traditions are shit. Hacking at the genitals of infants, blind faith, human sacrifice, the idea that God's word is final and unchangeable. Traditions must stand on their own merit. We must be willing to cast away a tradition if it is anti-scientific, dangerous, or just plain idiotic. Don't be married to your ideas. They should all live in a space that is subject to change, not a safe space, quivering in fear of reason. When Jordan says we must be judicious in their update, I say, why update it? Why not just start a new tradition or change it and call it something new? Why try to cling on to the original structure or title? The reason why is because people feel deep connection to tradition when really they should take it with a grain of salt, like we do with Santa Claus. This has been the Pangburn Podcast, and let art and science inspire.